to iLearn's Language, Culture, and Heritage Panel Session 1, Immersive Storytelling in Virtual Worlds for Transcendence. We have a lovely panel here today, and I'm going to toss it right to them. Take it away.
It is my great honor to be here together with my dear colleagues Amany, Alkhayat, Doris, Dr. Doris Molero, and Helena Galani. And I would like to welcome you all and thank you very much for coming. Thank you to iLearn for hosting us. It's been such a pleasure to also experience this months-long conference with a lot of events. You're doing such a great job. Honestly, I'm very, very thrilled. Earlier, even in one of the sessions, I met Karen Alexander, whom I met in real person in Lucca in Italy at the Immersive Education Conference, which is like, I believe, kind of your sister conference from the States also. They've been doing, we've actually learned to do 360 videos in Venice on the gondolas. It was an amazing fun. That was the year before. And then I met Karen. It was so amazing, the metaverse, you know. And I'd like to take you to the very first slide, but for some reason I'm not able to do that. It keeps going. Oh, there it is. Because there's a QR code now. Thank you very much. There's a QR code for the slides, so you can keep them or use the short link. There's a lot of gems in this presentation. I'd like you to keep this, you know, the link and also look at it later on if you could. And I can see Petit Prof here. Oh, that is wonderful. Hi, Steffi. That is awesome that you're here. And anybody else in the audience, would you mind sort of writing a one-liner as to where you're from, where you're coming from, and what's your professional background, so we can sort of address also, yeah, some of the audience here. That would be awesome. And I'd like to continue. We will be 4 of us presenting. We have the great delight that Amany is sharing her screen to show the environment that we would like to talk about. We will be talking about OpenSim. And OpenSim has a special meaning for us since last year, the beginning of last year, when we evaluated some 18 different 3D, VR or virtual world environments in order to find out which one warrants our investment. And I'd like to reference to this workshop with approximately 100 English teachers last year as well as this year, because what we did then this year is last year we had all this evaluation going on, and you'll find more information on vlanguages. That's to my right, the screen, vlanguages.peopleworks.com, where all of our work has been documented. And I would like also to reference the EU-funded projects that I've been involved in over the last, say, approximately a total of 15 years, with the first EU-funded project being on language learning in real time, in virtual classroom environment, and then the other ones, that was Lancelot, you see at the right-hand side. And the other 3 EU-funded projects were all about language learning in virtual worlds. These included Second Life, OpenSim, and Minecraft. And the slides don't seem to move. Can someone? Okay, no, they do. All right. So that's just a quick preview. I'll continue then straight away. And I didn't want to skip to introduce my dear 3 colleagues here, all being part of, being active moderators of these workshops that we run every year, the beginning of the year for 5 weeks. Amany is our VR guru. Yeah, she's a doctoral student in New York, and she has her master's in TEFL from the American University in Cairo, and moved to New York, then is now doing her PhD, and she is such a technical guru. She even programs chatbots. Thank you for doing. Who's moving the slides? I'm not quite sure. And Helena Galani, she's actively teaching English in virtual worlds in OpenSim on her own treasure island. She holds an MA ELT in applied linguistics. She's teaching youngsters and adults in Greece. And Dr. Doris Molero, originally from Venezuela, now living in Brazil. She is Argentina. She's part of the, she has been very much involved in Second Life, in creating 3D environments, and she is our fan fiction, emoting, and also the kind of the heart of this group of four of us. Yeah. So Helena is our academic head. Amany is the technical guru. Doris is the love and warmth and the heart of the South American spirit in many respects, and also very, very knowledgeable, anything to do with communication. And I happen to be the one who's also a little bit more sort of the business side of things, because I run Edunation in Second Life as a virtually state owner, and also in OpenSim, and I host events, and I do all of these ear-funded projects to get everyone work, because I think we deserve a bit of money for the amount of time we're spending in these 3D environments. So let me go and move on, because we'll take turns in every 10 minutes. And I'm not sure why the slides don't seem to be moving for me for some reason. Maybe I'm not patient enough. Okay.
Tell me which one you need.
Well, I'm not sure whether it is why they're not moving for me. Well, if you could do that, that'd be great.
Please, tell me.
Keep going. Keep going. So, I just wanted to mention, what is really OpenSim, and who of you in the audience has been in OpenSim? Or Second Life, for that matter.
I have.
Excellent. Heather's been yes. Tip of Karen Alexander. I'm waiting for Karen to tip of been there. Okay, excellent. If you could forward to the slides with the archived images, just to show you how Second Life has evolved over the period of some 13, 14 years that we've been there. I mean, 15 years, it's officially. It just shows how Second Life, graphically speaking, has become amazing, really. If you go to the next slide, if that's okay, and the next couple of slides until we get to the results of OpenSim. What I want to show here is the avatars we used to have. Stop here at this moment. The avatars we used to have, and the graphics have greatly improved due to the fact that mesh has become the dominant 3D format in Second Life. It's estimated that some 80% of objects in Second Life have turned into mesh. And mesh just simply means, before mesh, people would, in the virtual world, build with the prims, which they manipulated and added texture to it, and built the houses, the trees, the beaches, the avatars. Everything in Second Life is user generated. And with mesh, they were able to do this on their computers using Blender and other 3D modeling software, which then they imported into Second Life, and they did the same thing with OpenSim. Now, does anybody the difference between Second Life and OpenSim as regards to technology? Please keep typing in the text chat. I'll continue to talk, because for us it has been as if second OpenSim for many years used to be way years behind Second Life. Yeah, when it comes to thanks Heather, you're wonderful. Years behind Second Life. Yeah, and the it has changed, completely changed. If you could use your mobile phone and take that QR code and look at this book creator story, the visuals of that book were shot in OpenSim in the word Kitely, Singapore 1825, by Chris Munising, who is located, an English teacher located in Singapore, and he's created not only that booklet, yeah, as a part of our workshop in beginning this year, he also created the world itself. The amazing visual graphics of that booklet just show you how thanks, Karen, that's wonderful. How advanced OpenSim has become when it comes to when it becomes sorry. Okay, so we'll continue here because the results of these workshops in form of fantastic booklets and amazing stories, transmedia storytelling, immersive storytelling, that was our theme, and we put these in the booklets, and you'll see the great results when you also go to the Big Languages PB Works wiki. With that, I'm passing over to Doris.
Okay, hello everyone. It's great to be here and tell you a little bit about our immersive storytelling adventures. So this is a picture, as you can see, if you can look at this slide. This is what Heike was talking about in terms of graphics in OpenSim. So this beautiful scenery that is wonderful for a story was possible there now with the new environment adjustments and mesh. So let me tell you a little bit about what I'll be telling you. Okay, so first we're going to discuss a little bit about transmedia storytelling. I'm sure that all of you know the term and heard it before. Everybody loves stories, right? Also, I'll be telling you about 3 ways to tell stories that wonderfully work in virtual worlds. And those 3 techniques were role-playing, emoting, and fact fiction. These are creative digital linguistic practices of language learners in online communities who interact in fun spaces on social media and virtual worlds precisely to tell stories and have fun. I'll also be showcasing, telling you a little bit about virtually anywhere in Second Life. That's what a little project we put together during the COVID lockdown. And also, one in a million, billion, and trillion of cats. This is a story that we created together with the students participating in the EVO sessions of this year. So um, let's move on. And here we have a little definition, okay? Um, Transmedia storytelling is also known as transmedia narrative, or also multi-platform storytelling. So it is the technique of telling a single story or story experience across multiple platforms and formats using current digital technologies. This is what it is about, and this we own this to Henry Jenkins. He talks about
And
telling a story through different platforms.
sorry, Doris, to interrupt you. I'm just saying on the left-hand side of the screen, we are seeing the scene that Doris created for the Harry Potter part of some stories. She created that in OpenSim. And if perhaps also the live stream could turn to the other screen every so often, because it's a live demonstration of this environment and it's just so valuable. Thank you so much.
Okay, yes, this is precisely. what is role playing, emoting, and fan fiction. The scene of Harry Potter is a scene that we put together to, I don't know, to inspire participants and create their stories. There are different ways to present stories in virtual worlds. You can do that through avatars and using these buildings and artifacts and mesh and all that, or you just set a scene like in the Harry Potter scene. You can see this is something like copying a little bit as um, theorema. I don't know if you say that in English, but this is you just have these cutouts of the characters in the place. Okay, so we build the building, the scene. We set the scene with the artifacts, and then we get these characters there, and that's wonderful for language learning because students can get inspired and uh, role play their characters. Well, um, okay. Role play, emoting, and fan fiction are these digital creative linguistic practices, as I told you before, used by students, and they work wonderfully in virtual worlds. So if you don't know much about emoting is something that I've done since I came into virtual worlds back in 1999. It was a long time. The first time I arrived to Second Life at that time, uh, I got to this wonderful place where different avatars were role playing fantasy stories. You know, you could be a dragon, or you could be an elf, or you can be a mage, and these were stories that were created at the moment. This was not something that they will learn. They was just wonderful for language learning because emoting is about reacting to what other person tells you. Okay. In virtual worlds, you do that through chat. So this is wonderful for practicing writing, improving writing. Once I was in this role play sim, I had to learn a lot and I had to read a lot to find out about how to play the role of the character. Okay, there was something new and I learned a lot about culture and it was just wonderful. Um,
Just to add here, again, the live demonstration of Amany on the right-hand side, we are at one of the places that, again, Doris created for the virtually anywhere environment, and the characters she placed here and the gadgets and everything she created for the story. Just wanted to point out to that.
okay. I am not looking at that screen right now, so I don't know what Armani is showing. Um, so, um, going back to fan fiction, that's again the other technique that we're using here. Can be used. It can be used to help students write stories and tell stories and dream about them. Okay, in this slide that we have here, you can see characters from different worlds, from different stories interacting, and that's what fan fiction is about. With one fan fiction, students will have a saying of on what happened in a story. Okay. Okay, before Noni La Peña became the godmother of VR, she created a second life. Sorry, I was reading experience called Gone Gizmo, which put in the role of being interrogated at Guantanamo Bay. She produced that with Peggy Well USC. Oh, yes, and Marie. Yes, that's something that in Second Life have been happening for a long, long time. Um, well, let me continue with my experience in the adventure that we created together with my students during the pandemic was to we were just having English classes, and one day we get to this story. There was an audio story that was so wonderful. It's produced by um, Cambridge Assessment, and it was about these three characters that travel anywhere. and they travel through a virtual machine. So I said, wow, this is so wonderful. This could be done in Second Life. So that's how we started working with Transmedia. We started using this audio on a website where you can use what you do in a website, you test, maybe an interactive exercise with grammar and vocabulary. And we brought that into the virtual world of Second Life. There, the students collaborated and they created new fiction based on the existing short audio story. Here you have a QR code. If you use it, you can go to a blog where you will find more information about it. Well, these were the episodes that we created. We just, followed the story, the original stories, and created two extra episodes. They are supposed to be 6 episodes, and now we so far we have worked on, we have 8 episodes. One is about the Imperial Palace of Goslar, because my students were from Germany. They decided to talk about that. And the second episode, the last episode was about Pucara de Tilcara. That's Inca ruin in Jujuy, where I am living now. My students from Argentina research and portray and help me portray this in the virtual world. So this transmedia project that was done with the students and the help of a student created new products. So as in the slide, you can see, this shows that these creations can be used for the fulfillment of educational goals and support the implementation of strategies that combine storytelling with transmedia techniques. They reach out to learners on their terms, creating, enhancing, and spreading content in a rich and fruitful way. It has been really fun to work with this, and I use it every day with my students because the sites are there. So I do this through Zoom. Maybe they don't get into Second Life with their avatars, but they are aware of virtual world, and we're waiting for the opportunity to have all the we need to get into a virtual world, like to have a good computer or to have the time to do it. My students are students at the university that are busy with their university courses, or people that are working. So it's difficult to bring them to the virtual world. But I take them into the virtual world through Zoom. So we are combining different channels, and so it's like you don't have to be in the virtual world to enjoy and learn and create and do something new things. If also this is also you have the QR code there. You can look at this episode. This is the first episode of the series, and it's we put it together using a graphic novel, so you can have a look at what the story is about and look at Paul, Gita, and the professor. Um, this is another example of a graphic novel created in OpenSim with the participants in the TESOL sessions. It was fun to do, and again, this is another way to create and combine different platforms and bring the best of all the worlds, into the class. Well, um, uh, to finish, this is a quote that I love, and I think it summarizes everything I have been telling you about. And is, I know only one thing about the technologies that await us in the future, is that we will find ways to tell stories with them. And this is what we do. This is what I do with my students, and this is what this wonderful team has been trying to do for many years now. And we are very enthusiastic and believe in this is an excellent way to enjoy and learn. Okay, I think it's now
Thank you so
Elena's.
much, Doris. And yes, we've been looking at the sites, and Doris created this amazing with amazing visuals in Second Life, and on top of that, she created same and similar themes in OpenSim. And how she did it is, to me, an absolute marvel. She is incredible with regards to also like browsing OpenSim and getting objects in OpenSim. A lot of the objects are free to be copied and free to be shared because it's an educational environment. Through hypergridding, virtual like OpenSim regions, complete regions, we can travel a world which is estimated to be twice as large as Second Life now. Um, OpenSim has an additional advantage is that if, for example, a provider for OpenSim, say, stops their business, like goes out of business, and then we could pack up our island, and we've created here 4 region sim. First of all, it's very cheap to rent land as such and get lots of prims. But also we can pack it up and then go to another provider and unpack the same thing. I have done this here on this 4 region sim that I rented like a month ago before our EVA session last year, at the end of last year. And within a matter of weeks, Doris, Helena, Amany, and lots of others of the teachers filled the complete region with beautiful objects, with castles, with ships, with waterfalls, rock formations, uh, lighthouses, new modern buildings, you name it. We have an amazing, for prompts, for storytelling, for prompts, absolutely amazing environments. We could just teleport from one place to the other and take the shots. And it's legal to photograph, and it's legal to take machinima. So over to Helena now. And Helena has, she has her own treasure island for learners, and she moved some of the objects over to EduNation. And over to you, Helena, for your fantastic work.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and thank you for coming. Let me first say a big thanks to Heike and to Amany and Doris. We've been working together so nicely. It's such an inspiring experience for me to be able to transfer a lot of my work onto EduNation and to show our trainee teachers around. I'm Helena Galani from Central Greece, and it's a great honor to be here amongst friends and like-minded colleagues. I know that work in virtual worlds for my students, be it adults or young learners, involves a lot of extra time and effort, but it is so rewarding, believe me. So I would like to verify that transferring your lessons into a virtual world like OpenSim, Kitely, and Second Life is feasible, and in fact, it's been accomplished, as you can see. On this slide, you can see some snippets, some photographs on the left from ELT Treasure Island on a project we called Oscar Wilde and Transmedia Storytelling for 21st Century Competencies. I'll tell you more about this. um, and on the right, you can see other photographs from the same island on projects such as Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs or Alice in Wonderland. But also previously to this, we've done a lot of work with students on historical figures and very famous legendary events and people such as Spartacus, Aerophili, Hobson's Choice, and even learner-created fiction that we brought to life in Second Life with adults and on Kitely Open Simulator with younger students. Heike mentioned some of the advantages of using Open Simulator Kitely. For my young learners, it is a very secure place and they're not threatened. You can lock the settings and it's
you can easily do your work without them feeling insecure or without any trespassers. This is actually now you're looking at a photograph from our sandbox for the second week, on which I trained our teachers around transmedia storytelling in virtual worlds for English language teaching. Um, these particular photographs, I don't know if there is anybody screen sharing at the moment from our sandbox. Yes, you can see the sandbox on the board on your right, and you can see those dancing hippos that we created from mesh avatars by inserting animations and a particular script in order to play the animations, or road play the animations. So the week I was in charge of on transmedia storytelling was connected with technical skills such as finding resources for stories in Open Simulator. Actually, there are a lot of free resources for a teacher, and you can make the most of this in order to activate, to motivate your learners and to get them, to inspire them. Also, I taught people how to create objects, how to add sound and script to objects, how to animate, as we said before. Let's look at this. Is on the left, you can see the outline for week 2. Contained on our Canvas learning management system. It contained a lot of how-to machinimas. Machinima are actually, well, it's a neologism, a compound word that's made up of machine and cinema. They are little videos that you can create in world, in a virtual world, in a multi-user environment. On the right of this photograph, there's an indicative list of machinima that our trainee teachers found particularly useful for on the sessions that we actually organized this year with Electronic Village online. This is again a photograph of how to build, how to create basic objects, which later on our trainee teachers learned how to texture by adding images, how to add sound, how to, you know, by using a different kind of script, like the boxes here, you can see they contain different scripts that give your objects the affordance that you want. Um, Even you can even make your own slideshow viewer with a particular kind of script that's available on Open Simulator. It seems that our learners, especially the younger ones, I'm not implying that the older ones have not developed new technical habits, but especially the younger ones are particularly technologically literate, which explains why virtual worlds are in their hearts, especially after a Horizon European Union project. We realized that almost all of our students do this. They have this habit of sharing, of spreading information online, of building, my projects around transmedia storytelling with students are based on the 7 principles indicated by Jenkins in 2007. Jenkins, who is the, shall we say, inventor of transmedia storytelling. The 7 principles are related to spreadability, drillability, continuity, multiplicity, and of course, immersion in all worlds that are part of the transmedia universe. Also, extractability, word building, and this is what our learners are particularly pleased to do. They're so enthusiastic. They come up with ideas and suggestions, how they imagine particular scenes, what their avatar will look like in order to recreate and make their avatar look like a particular hero. Um,
And Helena, sorry if
yeah,
I interrupt.
yes.
Here on the right-hand side of the screen, I have put up the book of Demi, who's a
Oh,
B1
thank you.
learner, 14
Yes.
year old B1 learner of Helena's, who created with Book Creator this particular book. And I'm just scrolling it through as you're speaking about the
Thank
amazing
you. Thanks for
character
doing this,
development of
Heike.
your
That's a
students.
particularly impressive piece of work. You know, you can motivate the unmotivated through virtual worlds and through online technology in order to get your students to understand that their work, their projects is not wasted. It can be spread, and other students can find the usefulness of their outcomes. This particular one was connected with the symbolism and characters in Oscar Wilde's short stories. There may be some kind of subjectivity, which is the sixth principle by Jenkins, but this is the essence of things. This is what makes um, teaching languages particularly um, particularly useful in a virtual world. And I think that this technique, from my experience, speeds up the learning process. So the learner is the evangelist of the story and its hidden messages. And that's about performance, which is the last rule, the last principle by Jenkins. Um, it is unbelievable how easy you can learn also to use the affordances of virtual worlds in order to get closer to your students, your learners, whatever their age may be. Use a lot of drama techniques. You integrate body and emotions, and what Doris said earlier about emoting is a particularly useful area, but I would really like to point out that I find the avatars in Open Simulator and Second Life, which is much older, particularly exceptional because they've got emotions. They can express their facial expressions, they can express feelings, and you can animate them. They are personalities with experiences and behavior. So don't hesitate to try out this. Affordances such as teleporters, non-person characters, NPCs as we call them, scripts, holodecks, heads-up displays or HUDs, simulations, chat box, gestures, you name it. It's given the right training, it's very easy to acquire the skills that you need. So what we actually did also, before I pass the floor on to the next speaker, is that we did not only exhibit the learners' projects on galleries on the island, on ELT Treasure Island, but we also spread the learner projects around the internet, such as virtual galleries online or YouTube playlists or podcasts. They particularly like using podcasts and broadcasting once in a while. Please feel free to leave any questions that you would like in the chat box, and I could share more uh, about this magnificent experience. Thank you so much for listening, and now over to Amany, I believe.
Amany, yes, who creates amazing stories in VR using Engage VR and other suggestions. Amany is busy screen sharing also her desktop. Ah, you stopped it. Excellent. Do you want to
Yeah,
come
because
over and yeah. We'll forward. Can you, Pionia? Can you just forward to the last slide to not the one before? Sorry, not the very last slide, but the one before for Amany's engaged. That's the one.
That's
That
one.
was the one exactly. The Gulliver's Tales in Engage VR.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed working with you. It was really inspiring, and of course, there are lots of differences in terms of being in virtual worlds and also in VR, especially platforms like Second Life and OpenSim, where you have these rich affordances in terms of creating avatars, having emotions. And I enjoyed the time when we were making this book creator, and we're doing I was doing the story with Heike, Sir Lancelot, and how we were like enjoying making those gestures and facial expressions in OpenSim. And what was really inspiring about immersive storytelling is not only that sense of presence, perception, agency, but also collaboration on some aspects that relate to storytelling. And I gave Doris a hard time helping me make my avatar really beautiful, which actually made me wonder how we perceive the relationship between ourselves and our and avatars in virtual worlds. And the experience was really fun, entertaining, and a great learning process. Seeing other stories like Helena's stories and Doris, and while myself and Heike were working on our story, it was really inspiring and very engaging. And thinking about how I approach also storytelling with students, I've been doing a lot of digital storytelling, looking at different apps, and also started like doing it in VR. And I actually regret that I didn't take my students earlier to places like Mozilla Hubs when I one day asked them to behave like an so I gave them a prompt and I asked them, like, if you were an ant and you were suffering from racism. So I was trying to use metaphors, and how they can use metaphors in talking about racism, and how they were so amazing in bringing self-awareness and examining their own biases in their stories. So I introduced Mozilla Hubs to my students during a remote learning class using Zoom. So sometimes it's very difficult, and I teach adults. And I really appreciate what Helena said about feeling secure, privacy, and also adults love to feel that. And for them, adult learners, they also feel free, especially when they are, college students. And so some of them, they didn't have access to a laptop, so some of them, they were on mobile phone, and some of them, they didn't have the technical ability. So I would share with them some platforms like Mozilla Hubs or Engage VR on Zoom, and some of them, they can jump in if they have accessibility, and their behavior was different when they started using such WebXR platforms or 2D mode, and their perceptions as well. So in language learning, communication has a major role in engaging students, and coming up with their own scenarios and acting them in virtual worlds is really engaging and immersive. And immersion is all about participation and negotiation. And what's more is imagination. So the students can choose to be anything in the virtual world, and seeing how it fosters agency and promotes student learning, especially when integrating culturally relevant pedagogy in storytelling. And this is, I've always been doing this with language learners, integrating culturally relevant pedagogy, especially in New York City, where we have lots of diverse students coming from everywhere. And so I love to hear stories about their cultures, about their heroes from their own country, about food. Let's make a story about something that relates to a holiday. What's your favorite food? And then they start talking about their culture. And believe me, their faces light up when they integrate their own culture into language learning and talking about stories, and it makes them more empowered. And as you can see in the slides, this is an example of one of the stories that my students did. Some of them didn't have access to computers, so I shared my screen and Zoom, and we started exploring Engage VR's IFXs, or immersive effects. And I'm also a conversation designer. So in conversation design, a person is very important. Persona is very important. A very important first step before writing an interaction. So the very first thing that my students had to do also is to read about the characters, especially Gulliver, and try to read first about Gulliver and write some notes about the character. And then they had to choose one segment of the story to start working on their project. And then we started forming story circles that were very important as the students listened to each other, others' perspectives with respect and empathy. And then came the difficult part. As you have seen when I was sharing my screen, how beautiful avatars can be, and maybe if you were able to show you how to make the avatars laugh, or do some gestures like panic, or shouting or whatever. It was kind of difficult in Engage, especially that in the certain part of the story, there were the giants, and the Gulliver was very small. So we said, okay, we're gonna choose NPCs, and then we're gonna put them around the table. Actually, it was a library, so we had to take some photos so that to make it look like a house, and then we had to scale an avatar so small. And I'm a big fan of Engage VR, and I see lots of its potential in education. I see lots of potential in VR storytelling. Of course, if there is, I always believe that challenges make the best experiences. So when we chose NPCs, and then we discovered that the smallest avatar can be only 4 feet long, so we chose another NPC to act like Gulliver. We searched the platform for a ship, and this was the very interesting part. So we found Titanic Gallery and took many pictures. And I remember telling them that, okay, I'm gonna put on my HMD, and then I'm gonna take maybe I'm gonna take cool pictures in VR. And then I was like crazy searching the gallery, and I found out that the ship only exists in 2D. Uh, uh, but um, but anyways, because the ship is really cool. If you go to Engage VR and look at the ship, the Titanic ship, it's really cool, where these miniatures are walking, and musicians are playing the violin. So I thought that maybe in VR it would be much cooler and taking cooler pictures. And I discovered eventually that it was in 2D. Then we were back again to story circles to determine which photos and what scripts we should use for the book creator. Eventually, we have here the QR code. And I really loved how they were excited about it, and how their chats on WhatsApp, where they were sometimes clueless about certain things, and they asked each other, which we call peer correction. And so that's it. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed working with Doris, Helena, and Heike. And I leave the floor to you, Heike.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much to this fantastic team. And we'd like to ask you now in the audience to share your experiences when it comes to virtual worlds. And also VR. I mean, we are in Verbila, and Verbila is also VR enabled. This environment very much looks like real life, and yet Second Life or OpenSim are kind of fantasy worlds that you can become anybody that you would like. And we were chatting also in the text chat, and I'm reading it out loud for the live stream. Anna Maria says that she would like to mess around a little bit with her avatar, as in fantasy-wise, of course changed to a more normal look for professional purposes. But she says, I like messing around a bit in ways I would not in real life. And I can assure you that my wardrobe in Second Life is like a department store. It's and in real life, like it's just a small wardrobe, but in Second Life, my goodness, I have dresses for every century. And
Fantastic. We wouldn't have space for that in the real world, probably.
and can I ask the audience, what's your experience with OpenSim and Second Life? Because we still have like 5 minutes left for question and answers. And of course, you can ask us anything you like, feel free. But we'd also like to ask you a bit to share your feelings about, yeah, OpenSim and Second Life.
Well, I mentioned before that Noni de la Peña, who's widely known as being the godmother of VR, really was experimenting with this and even with transmedia early on in different ways of creating immersive journalism. So that was telling real life stories. And I usually show samples of what she's done and what some other people have done. Tim Krieg did the Conspiracy for Good. That's total combination of different platforms and real life. It's actually more of an alternate reality game, an ARG. So I show a lot of those and knew a lot of the producers, followed it. I was involved for a little bit with a consortium of different schools in the LA area. Try to have some combined collaboration between classes that eventually fell apart kind of when the economy crashed and Second Life took a nosedive.
Mm-hmm. Anna Maria, that's amazing. And to Prof, she asked how is it expensive to host a private region and how difficult is it to build? And that was my biggest concern. I mean, I'm paying at the moment where we have 2 Sims in Second Life, and it's the educational rate, so it's $110 a month for one region. It was at one time we were forced to pay the full rate, and that was $600 a month for 2 regions. Thankfully, the EU-funded projects helped towards it. And now, in comparison, OpenSim, you can rent 4 regions with a tenfold in prim size, tenfold of what we get in Second Life for one region. 4 regions, you can rent that for $20 a month from Kitely. We chose Kitely because Kitely somewhat has a marketplace as well, and I was concerned to get objects. But I no longer am concerned to get objects because objects are freely available in OpenSim, and they are stunning in beauty and complexity, from castles to cars to avatars to boats, anything you like, really. You just go to the object, right and mouse click on it, and if the copy is enabled, then we just take a copy, and that's legal. Totally, it's totally a shared community sort of environment for education. Education is wonderful.
So is it, in terms of copy, and that immediately makes me think of copyright intellectual property issues, and which I think we're all going to be facing on many different levels with all kinds of different technologies. So some of these are clearly offered, or do they have licensing like through Creative Commons, or is it some other proprietary form of licensing? And then what happens to ownership once somebody is using these different objects and in a rented region? I'm all for the sharing, but there's an awful
Totally and utterly. The fact is that every object, you can either make it copyable or you cannot.
Okay.
So those objects which are copyable by nature, by the people who created them and said, look, this, because OpenSim doesn't have, not like Second Life, doesn't have a huge marketplace. And if you
Right.
need a chair to sit down and a table, then you don't want to start building these objects in great details if they're already available. And truly speaking, OpenSim has been from the word start. And my concern was, where do we find these objects? And you find them in stores that are designated free stores. so you can go there and then literally get everything in form of clothing, objects for the house, building textures, everything, and it's freely available there.
So is it a little bit like the process of modding in the gaming world? Which is
I wouldn't know exactly what modding is. I'm sorry, I can't comment on that one.
it's kind of like modifying, and people actually modify things and then put them back out, and there's different kinds of pricing. I wish I could explain it to you better myself, but I've certainly been aware of that it's there. Like for Grand Theft Auto 5, I've seen different gamers put out new mods for it, and they're changing up characters and things that can happen in that game.
All right. I'm trying to answer a few more questions, one of which was, what about privacy concerns as regards OpenSim? And I have happy news there for you because, Petit Prof, not only can you close OpenSim regions with one click completely. This is what Helena has done for her learners, young learners. And I know a number of OpenSim regions that are completely closed and are full of like some 7,000 teachers and tens of thousands of students, but they're close to hypergridding. This is what it's called. The other thing is an OpenSim provider, which is based in Europe, would also guarantee the GDPR compliance. And the one Kitely we've chosen is, to be honest, I didn't think as far as privacy issues, but they are located in Israel. But I can pack up the 4 islands we have at the moment with one swoop and then unpack them in, it's almost like a Moodle copying, Moodle environment, you copy that and you unpack it with another provider which is based in Europe. And then we have this environment. Thank you, Karen Alexander. It's been such a pleasure to see you again today. I'm so thrilled. So, and Heather says, both in the case of Second Life and OpenSim, there's been a huge market of free items. Yes, and I was concerned about this, and I no longer am. So I'm very happy about it. Yes, yeah, that's German GDPR. Sorry, go ahead, Heather.
Can I share another comment too? Yeah, before, and by the way, I'm going to end our live stream soon, but I wanted to squeeze an extra comment in case anybody is listening or listens to this in the future, to remind folks that also in virtual worlds is actually a really great place to conduct research. And I got my PhD in Second Life. So,
Heather, my congratulations.
Oh, thank you. I think a lot of people, when 2020 happened and we all went inside, forgot that virtual worlds, as some of you have been describing, is a perfect place to continue to do research. So don't forget that that's out there.
Thank you ever so much, everyone, for joining this session. We're pleased to have been here. Great interchange, and please approach us for further information. We'd love to invite you over to EduNation. So please approach us, and thank you. Thank you, Heather, for hosting this. And thanks to iLearn, the great sponsors.
Thanks. Let's do a little F4 clapping with our avatars, and then I'm going to end our live stream. So there we go. All right, the main event has finished. We're going to stick around for a few minutes because we're all going to Friendly's Ladies so that we can borrow clothes out of their closet. But the live stream will now close. Thank you again to our videographers, Tony Cube Studios, and the YouTube audience. Woohoo! Go ahead and end.